Captain Marcus Reed stood on the bridge. Of the 8, his weathered hands gripping the worn command rail. Through the main view screen he watched as sleek modern ships of the Earth Alliance fleet glided past, their hulls gleamed with fresh paint and new technology. In contrast, his ship, the Cipher-8, was a relic from another era. "Look at them," said Engineer Thomas, stepping up beside Reed. "All shine, no soul." Reed nodded. Thomas had been with the ship almost as long as he had, 15 years of service on a vessel that the Alliance had tried to retire at least 3 times. "Captain," called communications officer Miller from her station, "incoming. Message from command, put it through," Reed said, straightening his uniform jacket. The view screen changed to show Admiral Parker's stern face. "Captain Reed, how's that old bucket holding together?" Reed forced a smile. "Still flying, sir. The Cipher-8 has never let us down." "That's about to be tested. I'm sending you coordinates for your final mission." Reed felt a chill at the words final mission. The crew had known this was coming, but hearing it said out loud made it real. "We're being decommissioned, then?" Reed asked. "After this mission, yes. The Cipher-8 will be retired and your crew reassigned. Some outdated equipment simply can't keep up with modern threats." Thomas made a small noise of disagreement but stayed quiet. "What's the mission, sir?" Reed asked. "We've detected strange energy readings at the edge of charted space. Probably nothing, could be a sensor malfunction or natural phenomenon. But we need someone to check it out." Reed understood what wasn't being said. This was busy work, a meaningless final task for an outdated ship before it was scrapped. "Sending the coordinates now," Parker said. "Complete the mission and return to Earth Station for decommissioning." Parker out. The screen went dark and the bridge was silent for a moment. "Well," Reed finally said, "it seems we have one last adventure. They're just trying to keep us out of the way," Security Chief Davis said from his tactical station, "sending us to chase ghosts while the real ships do the real work." Reed turned to face his bridge crew. They were all veterans, people who had chosen to stay with the Cipher-8 rather than transfer to newer ships. They had become more like family than colleagues. "Maybe so," Reed said, "but we'll do what we've always done, complete the mission and prove that experience counts for more than new technology." He turned to the helm. "Officer Bryant, set course for these coordinates, maximum speed." "Aye, Captain." As the ship hummed to life and prepared to jump to faster-than-light travel, Reed sat in his command chair, running his hand along the armrest where the padding had worn thin from years of use. Later that evening, Reed met with his senior officers in the ship's small conference room. The room, like much of the Cipher-8, showed its age: scrap table surface, outdated display screens, and lighting panels that occasionally flickered. "Let's talk about what we know," Reed said. "Miller, what information did command send about these energy readings?" Miller, a woman with short gray hair and quick eyes, brought up a display. "Not much, Captain, just coordinates and basic sensor data. The energy signature doesn't match anything in our database, which means it could be something new and important," Thomas said, leaning forward. The engineer was always excited by the unknown, or it could be nothing, Davis countered. The security chief was naturally suspicious, a trait that had saved the ship more than once. Either way, Reed said, we're going to investigate properly. Thomas, I want you to prepare the ship's sensors for detailed scans. Davis, run a full weapons check just in case. The weapon systems are outdated compared to what the fleet has now, Davis noted. Thomas smiled, maybe on paper, but they don't know about our modifications. Over the years, Thomas had made numerous unofficial upgrades to the Cipher-8, changes that weren't in any official record. Command would never have approved many of them, which is why they were kept secret. The ship might look outdated, but it had capabilities that even the newest vessels didn't. Miller, Reed continued. Keep monitoring for any additional communications from command or any other ships in that sector. There shouldn't be any, Miller said. Coordinates are far from regular patrol routes or trade lanes. Reed nodded slowly. Which makes me wonder why they're sending us all the way out there for. What they claim is probably nothing. The officers exchanged knowing looks. They had all served long enough to recognize when they weren't being told the whole truth. Captain Bryant said quietly, do you think this could be related to the rumors about the Vorn? The Vorn were an alien species that had been in a tense standoff with humanity for nearly a decade, not quite war, but far from peace. What rumors? Davis asked. I heard from a friend on the Stargazer that there have been unusual Vorn movements near the outer sectors. Brian explained. Nothing official, just whispers. Reed considered this. It would explain why command is being vague. They don't want to start a panic if the Vorgan are up to something. And they might be sending us because we're expendable, Davis finished. Or, Thomas suggested with a hint of pride. Because despite what they say publicly, they know the Cipher-8 can handle itself in a tough situation. Reed stood up and walked to the small viewport. Stars streaked by as the ship traveled through space. Whatever the reason, we'll be ready. This ship may be old, but it's far from outdated where it counts. He turned back to his officers. Get some rest. We arrive at the coordinates in 10 hours. As the meeting ended and the officers filed out, Reed remained in the conference room alone. He pulled out a small data chip from his pocket. His private orders from Admiral Wilson, Parker's superior. Unlike Parker, Wilson had always respected the Cipher-8 and its crew. Reed inserted the chip into a reader and encrypted text appeared on the screen. Marcus, the official mission is cover. What you're really looking for is evidence of a Vorgan super weapon. Intelligence suggests they discovered something ancient and powerful. Your outdated ship might be our best asset. The Vorgan won't consider you a threat. Be careful, old friend. The fate of the Alliance may depend on what you find. Reed deleted the message and crushed the chip. He had suspected there was more to this mission, but a potential super weapon raised the stakes considerably. The Cipher-8 might be heading toward its final mission, but Reed was determined it would be one that mattered. Maybe then people would stop calling his ship outdated. He straightened his uniform and headed for the bridge. The crew didn't need to know everything yet. Better to let them rest while they could. Tomorrow they would face whatever waited for them at the edge of known space, and Reed knew one thing for certain. Outdated or not, the Cipher-8 and its crew wouldn't go quietly into retirement. The alarm woke Captain Reed from a light sleep. He had dozed off in his chair after reviewing old mission logs, searching for any encounters with the Vorn that might help. Their current mission. Captain, to the bridge, Miller's voice came through the comm system. We're approaching the coordinates. Reed straightened his uniform and made his way through the familiar corridors of the Cipher-8. The ship had been his home for so long that he could navigate it with his eyes closed, feeling every vibration and sound like they were extensions of his own body. When he stepped onto the bridge, his crew was already at their stations, faces lit by the glow of control panels. Report, Reed said, settling into his command chair. We're dropping out of faster than light travel now, Bryant announced from the helm. The view screen showed the streaking stars slow and settle into distant points of light. Sensors active, Thomas said from the engineering station, running full spectrum scans. Reed leaned forward. What are we looking at? The view screen adjusted to show what appeared to be empty space, but as the sensors focused, something began to take shape, a massive structure floating against the blackness of space. What is that? Davis asked, voicing what everyone was thinking. Thomas worked his controls, enhancing the image. It's artificial, Captain. Approximately 2 km in length. The structure is made of materials never seen before. Our sensors can barely read it. The object on the screen was unlike anything they had encountered. It had a circular design with a hollow center, like a massive ring or gateway. Strange markings covered its surface, glowing with soft blue light. Is it Vorn? Reed asked. Miller shook her head. Design doesn't match any known foreign technology. This is something else entirely. The energy readings are off the charts, Thomas added. It's putting out more power than our ship's reactor, but I can't identify the source. Reed stood and approached the view screen. Take us closer, Bryant. Slow approach. Davis, keep weapons on standby, but do not power them up yet. The Cipher-8 edged toward the mysterious structure. As they drew closer, the blue glow pulsed softly, as if responding to their presence. Captain, Miller called out. I'm detecting unusual radiation patterns. They're forming what looks like a data stream. Can you decode it? Reed asked. Miller worked at her station. It's not like any communication protocol I've seen, but there's a pattern to it. Give me time and I might be able to figure something out. Reed nodded. Do what you can. Captain, Thomas interrupted, his voice tense. I'm detecting something else. Gravitational distortion about half a light hour away. Something's coming. Reed turned to Davis. Identify. Davis's fingers flew over his console. Ships. Multiple signatures. They're using some kind of cloaking technology, but our modified sensors can detect their engine emissions. Vorn? Reed asked, though he already knew the answer. Yes, sir. A battle group, 1 command ship and at least 6 support vessels. They're heading straight for us. Reed's mind raced. The Vorgan were a militaristic species, proud and aggressive. If they were sending a battle group, they clearly valued this strange structure. Time until they reach us? Reed asked. At their current speed, 15 minutes. Bryant reported. Options? Reed looked at his senior officers. We could try to hide behind the structure, Davis suggested. They'll detect us eventually, Miller countered. We could send a message to command. Bryant offered. Thomas shook his head. The nearest Earth Alliance ship is days away. We're on our own. Reed walked a slow circle around the bridge, considering their situation. The Cipher-8 was outgunned and outmatched even with Thomas's modifications. They couldn't hope to defeat a Vorgan battle group. Captain Miller said suddenly, I've made some progress with the data stream. It's not a communication. It's more like a doorway. Explain, Reed demanded. The radiation pattern is creating a stable field in the center of the ring structure. It's similar to the theories about dimensional gateways that scientists have been working on for decades. Thomas moved to Miller's station and studied her readings. She's right. This thing isn't a weapon. It's a gateway to somewhere else. Can we use it? Reed asked. Thomas and Miller exchanged uncertain looks. Theoretically, Thomas said, but we have no idea where it leads. 10 minutes until Vorgan intercept, Davis announced. Reed faced a decision that would determine not just their fate but potentially the fate of Earth. If the Vorgan captured this technology, they could use it against the Alliance. Miller, can you activate the gateway? Reed asked. I think so, she replied. The data stream contains what appears to be activation sequences. Do it, Reed ordered. Bryant, position us directly in front of the center of the ring. As Miller worked to decode the activation sequence, the rest of the bridge crew watched in silence. The Vorn ships were growing closer by the minute. Captain Davis said quietly, What are you planning? Reed met his security chief's gaze. Sometimes the only way out is through. Understanding dawned on Davis's face. You're going to take us through the gateway. It's a risk, Reed acknowledged. But our options are limited. We can surrender to the Vorn, try to fight and certainly lose, or take a chance on the unknown. The old Cipher-8 surprised everyone. Again, Thomas said with a grim smile. I like it. 5 minutes to Vorn intercept. Bryant reported. They're increasing speed. Miller, Reed asked. I've identified the activation sequence. She replied, sending it now. The bridge crew watched as the blue glow of the structure intensified. The hollow center began to fill with swirling energy, like water spinning down a drain, but in reverse, colors that none of them had names for spiraled and danced. It's working, Miller said, her voice filled with awe. The Vorn are hailing us, Davis reported. They're ordering us to move away from the structure. No response, Reed ordered. Bryant, take us in. Full impulse power. Bryant hesitated for just a moment. Sir, we don't know what's on the other side. Reed placed a hand on his helmsman's shoulder. That's true. But we do know what's behind us. Sometimes the unknown is better than certain defeat. Bryant nodded and set the course. All hands secure for possible turbulence, Reed announced shipwide. We're about to make history. The Cipher-8 moved forward, its aging hull reflecting the strange energies emanating from the gateway. As they approached the swirling center, the ship began to vibrate. Structural integrity holding, Thomas reported, but just barely. 2 minutes to Vorn intercept, Davis announced. They're charging weapons. Steady, Reed said, gripping his command chair. Steady. The nose of the Cipher-8 touched the energy field, causing ripples like a stone dropped in a pond. Then slowly, the ship began to pass through. Energy levels spiking. Thomas shouted over the growing noise of the straining ship. Light filled the bridge, blinding and intense. Reed felt a strange sensation, as if his body was being pulled in all directions at once. The last thing he heard was Davis's voice. "The Vorn are firing." Then everything went white. And the Cipher-8, the ship they called outdated, disappeared from known space. Admiral Wilson stood at the large window in Earth Alliance Command Headquarters, watching ships come and go from the orbital station. His reflection showed a man with tired eyes and a deeply lined face, the result of 30 years of military service and the weight of countless difficult decisions. "Sir," his assistant said from the doorway, "they're ready for you in the situation room." Wilson nodded and straightened his uniform. He had been dreading this meeting since the first report came in 12 hours ago. The situation room was filled with high-ranking officers when Wilson entered. Their conversation stopped immediately, all eyes turning to him. "What do we know?" Wilson asked without preamble. Colonel Hayes, head of strategic operations, stood and activated the main display. The Cipher-8 reached its assigned coordinates at 700 hours. Yesterday, they maintained regular communication until 7:42, when they reported discovering an unknown structure. The display showed the last transmission data from the Cipher-8, including grainy images of a massive ring-shaped object. Their final transmission came at 8:03. Hayes continued, "After that, nothing. No distress signal, no debris field. Nothing to indicate what happened. The ship simply vanished." "Could it have been destroyed?" asked General Roberts. "Unlikely," Hayes replied, "even if the ship was completely vaporized, which is beyond any known weapon technology. We would detect energy readings or radiation signatures. There's nothing." "What about the Vorn?" Wilson asked, though he already suspected the answer. Hayes changed the display to show sensor data from a nearby monitoring station. A Vorn battle group was detected entering the area approximately 10 minutes after we lost contact with the Cipher-8. They remained for several hours, then departed, so they either destroyed our ship or captured it, Roberts said. "If they had captured or destroyed the Cipher-8, they would be broadcasting it across every channel," Wilson countered. "The Vorn never miss an opportunity for propaganda. Perhaps they're keeping it quiet because of what the Cipher-8 found," Hayes suggested. Wilson nodded. "Structure. What do we know about it?" Hayes looked uncomfortable. "Very little, sir. The Cipher-8's data transmission was incomplete. We know it's not of Earth or Vorn origin. Its power output was substantial, beyond anything we've seen before." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. An unknown alien structure with immense power now potentially in Vorn hands. The diplomatic office received this an hour ago, Wilson said, inserting a data chip into the table's console. The display changed to show a Vorn diplomat there. Scaled skin and vertical pupils. Unmistakable. Earth Alliance Command. The Vorn began. "We formally protest your illegal weapons testing in neutral space. Your vessel activated a device of unknown power near our borders. We demand an explanation and reparations for this clear act of aggression." Wilson stopped the recording. "They think we were testing a weapon. Were we? Someone asked quietly. Wilson's expression hardened. The Cipher-8 was sent to investigate. Anomalous readings, nothing more. Captain Reed had clear orders not to engage with any technology they found. But Wilson knew Reed well enough to doubt he would sit idle if the Vorn appeared. The captain was resourceful and dedicated to protecting Earth, sometimes too dedicated. We need answers, Wilson declared. I want a task force assembled to return to those coordinates, full sensor package, armed escort. The Vorn won't like that, Roberts warned. I don't care what the Vorn like, Wilson replied. I have a missing ship and crew. As the meeting continued, a young analyst named James sat at his workstation several floors below, reviewing the Cipher-8's final transmissions. He had been assigned to do a standard data analysis, but something caught his attention. James enhanced the audio from the ship's last moments. Most of it was standard communication, but beneath that barely audible was another signal. He isolated it and ran it through various filters. That's odd, he muttered. The hidden signal wasn't random noise. It had a pattern, a repeating sequence of tones that didn't match any standard Earth Alliance communication protocol. James pulled up the record of Captain Reed's service history. Reed had served in intelligence before. Taking command of the Cipher-8, he would know all emergency codes. James's fingers flew over his console as he compared the strange signal to outdated intelligence protocols. Finally, he found a match, a code so old it hadn't been used in 15 years. Decoded, the message was simple but baffling. Not destroyed. Gateway active. Crossing threshold. James sat back, staring at the words on his screen. If his analysis was correct, the Cipher-8 hadn't been destroyed or captured. They had gone somewhere else. He hesitated only briefly before sending his findings directly to Admiral Wilson. Wilson dismissed the meeting and returned to his office, his mind racing with possible scenarios and contingency plans. When he saw the urgent message from the analysis division, he opened it immediately. 5 minutes later, Wilson locked his office door and activated his secure communication terminal. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to Dr. Lena Wright, head of the Alliance's Classified Dimensional Physics Division. Admiral, she greeted him. This is unexpected. Doctor, what do you know about gateways, specifically interdimensional ones? Wright's expression changed from surprise to caution. Such technology is theoretical at best. We've had some success in lab conditions creating microscopic connections between points in spacetime, but nothing stable or large enough to be practical. What if someone else had succeeded where we failed? Wilson asked. Someone else? You mean the Vorn? I mean someone else entirely, an unknown civilization with technology far beyond ours or the Vorn's. Wright was silent for a moment. If such technology existed, it would represent the most significant discovery in human history. The ability to move between dimensions would change everything. Travel, resources, possibly even our understanding of reality itself. And if a ship, say, an older model Earth Alliance vessel, were to enter such a gateway, understanding dawned on Wright's face. Is that what happened to the Cipher-8? Wilson sent her the decoded message. According to this, yes. Wright studied the message, then looked back at Wilson. If they did enter a Gateway, there's no way to know where or when they ended up. They could be anywhere in the multiverse, but they might still be alive, Wilson said. Possibly, Wright conceded, but finding them would be like finding a specific grain of sand on all the beaches of Earth. Wilson's expression hardened with determination. Then we better start looking. After ending the call, Wilson stood at his window again, looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Cipher-8, the ship everyone called outdated, and its crew might still be alive, traveling through dimensions no human had ever seen before. Find your way home, Marcus, Wilson whispered to the stars. And until then, I'll make sure no one forgets about you. He turned and activated his secure terminal again. This time he would assemble a team, not a standard search and rescue, but a covered operation to investigate the gateway and perhaps somehow open a path for the Cipher-8 to return. The ship might be outdated by modern standards, but its crew was among the best the Alliance had ever produced. If anyone could survive the impossible, it was them. Pain was the first thing Captain Reed felt when he opened his eyes. His head throbbed and a warm trickle of blood ran down his temple. The bridge of the Cipher-8 was dark, lit only by emergency lights and sparking control panels. Status report, he called out, his voice hoarse. He pulled himself up from where he had fallen next to his command chair. Around him, his crew was slowly regaining consciousness. Thomas was already at his engineering station, working to restore power. Main power is down, Thomas reported. Life support is running on emergency backups. Hull integrity is at 82%. Communications, Reed asked, looking toward Miller's station. Miller, wiping blood from a cut on her forehead, checked her controls. Communications are offline, Captain. I can't even tell if the system is damaged or if there's simply nothing to communicate with. Sensors, Davis had managed to get a partial system working. Limited function, sir. But what I can see. His voice trailed off. Report, Davis, Reed insisted. We're not where we were, sir. The stars are all wrong. Constellations don't match any in our database. Reed moved to look at Davis's display. The security chief was right. The star patterns visible outside the ship were completely unfamiliar. The gateway, Reed said quietly. It worked. But where are we? Bryant asked from the helm, which was now flickering back to life as Thomas rerouted power. More importantly, Miller added, can we get back? Reed had no answers for them. Yet Thomas, focus on repairs. First, priority is sensors. We need to know what's out there. Then communications and propulsion. Already on it, Captain, Thomas replied. But it's going to take time. Some of the systems were fried by whatever energy field we passed through. Reed nodded. Everyone else helped Thomas or tend to the injured. We'll regroup in 1 hour. 3 hours later, the Cipher-8 had limped to the shadow of a small moon in an unknown star system. Basic systems were functioning again, though many were running at reduced capacity. The crew had gathered in the conference room to assess their situation based on stellar positioning and spectrographic analysis. Davis explained, pointing to a display. We're still in what appears to be the Milky Way galaxy. However, several star systems that should be there are missing, and others we've never recorded are present. A parallel dimension, Thomas suggested. The gateway must have sent us to a reality similar to our own. But with differences, is there any sign of Earth? Reed asked. Davis hesitated. There's a solar system approximately 15 light years from our position that matches Earth's sun. But without better sensors, I can't confirm if Earth itself exists there. What about the gateway? Miller asked. Can we find our way back? The gateway structure doesn't appear to exist in this location in this dimension, Davis said. At least not that our sensors can detect. Reed considered their options. With limited fuel and damaged systems, they couldn't travel far. But staying in one place meant risking discovery by whoever or whatever existed in this dimension. We need more information. Reed decided. Set course for the Earth-like solar system, maximum sustainable speed. We'll approach cautiously and observe before making contact if Earth exists. Here, it took the damaged Cipher-8 nearly a week to reach the solar system. As they approached, their improved sensors confirmed what they had hoped. For Earth existed in this dimension, too. But as they drew closer, the differences became apparent. Captain, Davis called out, his voice tense. I'm detecting large artificial structures in orbit around Earth, dozens of them. Design matches nothing in our database. Military installations? Reed asked. Based on power signatures and configuration, yes. And there's more. The lunar colonies are gone. Instead, there appears to be a massive mining operation. Reed ordered the ship to hold position just beyond Pluto's orbit. Can we monitor their communications? Miller worked at her station. I'm picking up transmissions, but the encryption is unlike anything I've seen. Give me time to analyze it. Hours passed as Miller worked on breaking the encryption. Finally, she succeeded in accessing what appeared to be a news broadcast from Earth. The crew gathered around the view screen, falling silent as the images appeared. Earth was still recognizable, but many cities appeared damaged or rebuilt in an unfamiliar style. The people looked human, but their clothing and appearance were slightly different from what the crew knew. Most shocking was the news itself. Reports of resistance fighters being captured, of alien governors imposing new restrictions, of humans being relocated for labor assignments. They're occupied, Reed said quietly. Earth is under alien control in this dimension. Can we identify the aliens? Thomas asked. Miller adjusted the feed to show footage of the occupiers, tall-scaled beings with vertical pupils, unmistakably Vorn but with subtle differences from the ones they knew. It's the Vorn, Davis confirmed, but not exactly our Vorn. Different evolution in this dimension. Thomas suggested. The same species, but their history took a different path. Reed watched the broadcast with a heavy heart. In their dimension, Earth and the Vorn were locked in a cold war, each side wary but neither willing to risk open conflict. Here the war had happened and humanity had lost. Captain Bryant said suddenly, I'm picking up a ship approaching our position. It's small, possibly a scout vessel. Have they detected us? Reed asked. I don't think so. Their course seems predetermined, like a patrol route. Reed made a quick decision. Intercept course, minimal power. Let's see who they are without revealing ourselves. The Cipher-8 moved silently toward the approaching vessel. As they drew closer, they could see it was indeed a small patrol ship, but not of Vorn design. It appeared to be human-made, but cobbled together from mismatched parts. They're transmitting a coded signal, Miller reported. I think it's some kind of identification. Broadcast, should I respond? Reed hesitated. Responding could give away their position, but remaining silent might make the patrol ship investigate, send a standard Earth Alliance greeting, Reed decided. Let's see how they react. Miller transmitted the message. For long moments, there was no response. Then the patrol ship changed course, heading directly for them. There. Powering weapons, Davis warned. Hold position, Reed ordered, shields up. But do not arm weapons. The view screen activated, showing the face of the patrol ship's captain, a human woman, with a scared face and hard eyes. Unknown vessel, she said, her voice tense. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed. That was an Earth Alliance code from before the fall. Who are you? Reed stepped forward. I am Captain Marcus Reed of the Earth Alliance vessel Cipher-8. We are not from your dimension. We came through a gateway and are seeking information. The woman's expression changed from suspicion to shock. The Cipher-8 was destroyed 12 years ago, during the first Vorn invasion. If this is some kind of Vorn trick. Not a trick, Reed assured her. In our dimension, Earth and the Vorn are in a stalemate. We accidentally traveled through a gateway while investigating the strange structure. The woman was silent for a long moment, studying Reed and the bridge of the Cipher-8. Finally, she spoke again. If you're telling the truth, you need to come with us immediately. The Vorn patrol will be here within an hour. Where would you take us? Reed asked. To what's left of the resistance, she replied. And to someone who might believe your story, the only surviving officer from this dimension, Cipher-8. The resistance base was hidden deep inside an asteroid in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. As the Cipher-8 followed the patrol ship into a concealed hangar, Reed marveled at the ingenuity of the humans who had created this secret fortress. They've hollowed out the entire asteroid, Thomas said, examining the sensor readings, power systems, life support, even artificial gravity, all hidden from foreign scanners. Cipher-8 settled onto the landing pad, and Reed ordered the crew to prepare for contact. They had no idea what kind of reception awaited them in this alternate dimension. When the airlock opened, they found themselves facing a dozen armed resistance fighters. At the front stood the woman from the patrol ship, and beside her an older man with a mechanical right arm and familiar eyes that widened in shock when he saw Reed. It really is you, the man said in a voice Reed recognized, despite its rougher edge. Reed stared at his counterpart from this dimension, an older, battle-scarred version of himself. You're me. The other Reed nodded, or who you might have become in a world where the Vorn won. He turned to the fighters. Stand down. They're not a threat. As the weapons lowered, the two Reeds studied each other. Same face, different destinies. Call me Marcus, the counterpart said, since we can't both be Captain Reed. And this is Commander Jackson, my second in command. The scarred woman nodded curtly. You should come with us. The council will want to hear your story. The Resistance Council chamber was a converted cargo hold filled with maps, communication equipment, and a large table where a dozen people now sat. listening to Reed explain their journey. Through the gateway. In our dimension, Reed concluded. Earth clears throat and the Vorn maintained an uneasy peace. Neither side has a clear advantage. That changed here when they found the Ancient One's technology, Marcus said. Weapons beyond anything we could counter. The war lasted less than a year. The Ancient Ones, Miller asked. Civilization that built the gateway. Commander Jackson explained. They left structures like it throughout the galaxy millions of years ago. Vorn found one and used it to enhance their weapons technology. Thomas leaned forward eagerly, but the gateway we came through, it still exists in our dimension. Could we use it to help you? A scientist on the council shook her head. The gateways are paired systems. One in this dimension was destroyed by the Vorn after they used it to prevent any other species from gaining the same advantage. Then how do we get back home? Bryant asked the question on everyone's mind. Marcus exchanged looks. With the council members, we might have a way. We've been working on recreating gateway technology using what we've learned from Ancient One artifacts. It's not complete, but with your ship's data on the original gateway. You want to rebuild it, Reed realized. Not just to send us home, but to give your resistance an advantage. Exactly, Marcus confirmed. Your ship, your outdated Cipher-8, might be exactly what we need. Reed's crew looked to him. The decision was complex. Helping could further entangle them in this dimension's war, but refusing would leave both them and the resistance with few options. Show us what you have, Reed decided. Days turned into weeks as the crew of the Cipher-8 worked alongside the resistance. Thomas and the resistance engineers analyzed the ship's sensor logs of the gateway, while Miller helped decrypt Vorn communications to learn more about their security protocols. There's something else, Thomas told Reed one evening, something unusual about why our ship was able to pass through the gateway safely. What do you mean? Reed asked. Modern Earth Alliance ships have quantum-aligned shield systems. According to the resistance scientists, those systems would have catastrophically interacted with the gateway energy field. But the Cipher-8 shields are older, Reed realized. Thomas nodded. Our outdated technology saved us, and it might be the key to defeating the Vorn here. The plan came together piece by piece. The resistance would use the Cipher-8's older technology to create weapons and shields that the Vorn couldn't easily detect or counter. Meanwhile, the partial gateway they had been building would be completed using the data from Reed's ship. It won't be stable for long, the lead scientist explained during the final briefing. Maybe enough for your ship to pass through, but that's it. What about your people? Reed asked. Marcus, we'll use what we've learned from you to continue the fight, Marcus replied. Your shield and weapons designs will give us a real chance against the Vorn. You could stay, Commander Jackson suggested. Your crew, your ship, you could make a difference here. Reed looked at his crew. They had discussed this possibility privately. Staying would mean never seeing their homes again, but they could help turn the tide for humanity in this dimension. Bryant spoke for all of them. Our dimension needs to know about the gateway, about the Ancient Ones, if the Vorn in our reality find this technology first. Reed nodded. We need to go back, but we'll leave you with everything we have. Technical specifications, tactical data, all of it. Marcus understood one Cipher-8 might be gone from this dimension, but another brought us hope, maybe. That's how it was meant to be. The day of departure came too quickly. The Resistance had installed the gateway components in a remote section of the asteroid belt far from Vorn patrols. The Cipher-8, repaired and improved with Resistance modifications, hovered before the incomplete ring structure. Gateway powering up, Thomas reported. From engineering, energy patterns match those from our original crossing. Reed opened a channel to the Resistance base. Marcus, are you receiving? Loud and clear, his counterpart replied. Gateway is at 60% power and rising. Remember, you'll have only moments to cross once it stabilizes. Reed looked around at his crew, now at their stations and ready for the journey home. Whatever happens, it's been an honor to serve with all of you. This mission revealed more than we ever expected, and you've all performed admirably. Vorn ships detected, Davis suddenly called out. 3 cruisers heading this way. They must have detected the gateway. Power signature. Time to activation, Reed asked. 2 minutes. Thomas replied. The Vorn will be in weapons range in 3. Reed made a quick decision. Marcus, we're going to draw them away from the gateway. Once it's active, we'll circle back. That's cutting it close, Marcus warned. The old Cipher-8 has a few tricks left, Reed assured him. This ship may be outdated, but it still has fight in it. The Cipher-8 accelerated away from the gateway, deliberately letting the Vorn detect them. As expected, the enemy ships changed course to pursue. They're taking the bait, Davis confirmed. Now, Bryant, Reed ordered. Execute pattern Omega. The helmsman grinned as he activated the maneuver they had practiced. The Cipher-8 cut its engines, spun 180 degrees, and fired its afterburners directly at the lead Vorn ship. The unexpected move caused the Vorn vessels to scatter, buying precious seconds. Gateway at full power. Thomas shouted, it's stable. Reed ordered a hard turn back toward the gateway. The swirling energy field had formed in the center of the incomplete ring, their door home. The Vorn are regrouping, Davis warned. Firing range in 30 seconds. All power to engines, Reed commanded. Straight through the middle. The Cipher-8 raced toward the gateway as energy blasts from the Vorn ships began to fill space around them. Just before they reached the threshold, Reed sent one final message. Thank you, Marcus, keep fighting. In at least one universe, humanity will never surrender. Then the Cipher-8 hit the energy field. Light engulfed the ship, and once again they vanished. They emerged into familiar space, the original gateway still spinning with energy before them, but they weren't alone. A joint Earth-Vorn task force had surrounded the structure, weapons trained on it. Multiple ships detected, Davis reported. Earth Alliance and Vorn. They're not firing at each other. We're being hailed, Miller announced. It's Admiral Wilson, the Admiral's shocked face appeared on screen. Reed, is that really you? Reed smiled tiredly. Yes, sir. The Cipher-8 is returning to duty. And we have quite a story to tell. As Reed began his report, he realized that the ship, once ridiculed as outdated, had not only survived the impossible, but had forever changed two dimensions. Sometimes, he thought, the old ways still had value, a lesson. Both humanity and the Vorn would soon learn. The massive council hall gleamed under the light of twin suns. Inside, the Earth delegation shifted uncomfortably as Ambassador Wilson signed the final documents that would formally admit humanity into the Galactic Council. The year was 2157, just 3 years after first contact, and humans were eager to join the interstellar community. Too eager, perhaps. And you understand Section 27B completely? Asked High Counselor Vex, his blue skin reflecting the light as he leaned forward. Earth agrees to strict limitations on military vessel construction. No warships exceeding Class 3 defensive capability. Wilson nodded and signed the page. Earth understands and agrees. In the back of the room, Commander Jack Reynolds clenched his jaw. Class 3 meant little more than armed shuttles and patrol boats, nothing that could stand against a real threat, but he kept quiet. Earth needed this alliance. 6 months later, Reynolds stared at the holographic display in Earth Central Command. 3 human mining outposts in the asteroid belt had been raided in the past month. 17 dead, millions resources stolen. Play it again, he ordered. The security footage showed sleek black ships appearing suddenly, firing precision weapons and departing with stolen cargo. The entire attack lasted less than 10 minutes. Valdorian pirates, said General Adams, pointing to marking on the ship's third attack this month. And what does the council say? Reynolds asked, already knowing the answer. They issue a formal warning to the Valdorian government. They'll increase patrols in the sector. Eventually, Reynolds walked to the window, looking out at the sprawling spaceport below. Earth's fleet of Class 3 vessels looked like toys compared to the massive council ships docked nearby. We're sitting ducks, sir, he said quietly. I know, Adams replied, but our hands are tied by the treaty. Reynolds turned, his eyes narrowing. Are they really? 2 weeks later, Reynolds sat at a small table in the back of a bar in New Singapore. The ocean's edge was known as a place where space crews gathered and where conversations could remain private. A woman slid into the seat across from him. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her eyes carried the focus of someone who'd spent years solving impossible problems. Commander Reynolds, I'm Myra Patel. You wanted to talk about ship design. Reynolds nodded. I reviewed your work on the Europa station. Impressive modifications to the shield systems. Patel shrugged. The council wouldn't approve the original specs. I had to get creative. That's exactly why I called you. Reynolds leaned forward. What if we got even more creative? Over the next hour, Reynolds outlined his idea. Patel listened occasionally, asking sharp questions or suggesting alternatives. When he finished, she sat back. You're talking about breaking the treaty, she said finally. I'm talking about protecting our people. Reynolds corrected. The council won't do it. We need to build ships that can. It would have to be completely off the books. Black budget. I have some contacts in government who share my concerns. Paddle drummed her fingers on the table. The technical challenges would be enormous. We'd need to disguise the weapon systems as something else. Entirely. Can it be done? She smiled slowly. Oh. It can be done. It won't be easy, but it can be done. One by one, Reynolds gathered his team. Paddle brought in 3 trusted engineers, Admiral Thompson, an old friend from Reynolds' Academy days. Secured access to an abandoned mining facility on Triton, Neptune's largest moon, far from prying eyes. Dr. Alan Foster, Earth's leading expert on alien technology, joined after a Valdorian raid hit a research station where his daughter worked. She survived. 5 of her colleagues didn't. We'll need pilots, Thompson said during their first full meeting in the cold, pressurized chamber they'd established as their base. I know a few who can keep secrets. Reynolds replied, good ones too. The facility had been idle for nearly a decade, shut down when more profitable mining operations opened in the asteroid belt. Now it would serve as the birthplace of humanity's true fleet. 2 months into the project, Reynolds stood on the observation deck watching as massive components were shuttled into the main construction bay. The skeletal frame of what would become their first ship was taking shape. Incoming transmission from Earth, called one of the comm officers. Council inspection team arriving next week. They're doing random checks of all member species shipyards. Reynolds exchanged a worried look with Patel. How much could they detect from orbit? Too much, she replied. We need to mask our power signature and shield this whole facility. For 3 days the team worked non-stop, installing sensor baffles and reconfiguring the facility's power grid to appear as nothing more than a standard mining operation with minimal activity. When the council ship passed by Neptune, they reported nothing unusual. We've got a problem, Foster announced, walking into the command center where Reynolds was reviewing progress reports. The weapon systems won't integrate with our power grid. They draw too much energy. It would fry our circuits. Reynolds frowned. Solutions. We need better tech, council-level tech. Foster looked uncomfortable. We need to steal it. Reynolds shook his head. No stealing. But I might have another way. 3 days later, Reynolds met with Marcus Bell, a scrapper who specialized in salvaging decommissioned alien tech. Bell's business was legal, barely, focusing on technology that advanced races considered obsolete but was still centuries ahead of human capabilities. Old Krillian shield generators, Bell laughed. Sure, I can get those there. Practically antiques to them. The Krillians upgraded their entire fleet 2 years ago. How many can you get? And how quietly? Bell named his price. It was high, but it would be worth it. 6 months into the project, disaster nearly struck. Reynolds was reviewing the latest modifications to the prototype vessel when the alarm sounded. Council Inspector Patel's voice came over the comm. Transport shuttle incoming, ETA 3 minutes. How did they find us? Reynolds demanded, already moving toward the main bay. They didn't. Thompson replied, joining him in the corridor. It's Inspector Drill. She's doing a routine check of all registered facilities in the system. Hide everything, Reynolds ordered. Seal the lower levels. The team scrambled to conceal their work. Massive tarps covered the half-built ship. Equipment was moved to sealed chambers. When Inspector Drill landed, she found what appeared to be a minimal maintenance crew keeping the facility operational for future mining Operations. Quite a large staff for a dormant facility, she noted, her compound eyes scanning the main hangar, preparing for reopening next year. Reynolds explained smoothly, Neptune's resources are becoming economically viable again. Drill seemed satisfied, though she spent an uncomfortably long time near the sealed doors to the lower levels. Finally she departed. Too close, Thompson muttered as they watched her shuttle leave. Reynolds nodded. We need to accelerate the timetable. The longer we work, the more chances of discovery. 1 year after the project began, Reynolds stood in the control room as the first ship, code-named Phantom, prepared for its initial test flight. From the outside, it resembled a large cargo vessel. Inside it contained weapon systems that could outfight anything the Valdorians had. All systems ready, Paddle reported. Weapons disguised as standard equipment, energy signature masked to any observer. She'll look like a Class 3 transport, with some custom modifications, all within treaty limits. Reynolds nodded, feeling the mixture of pride and apprehension. If they were caught, it would mean the end of Earth's membership in the Council, at best, and possibly war at worst. Launch when ready, he ordered. Let's see what she can do. As the Phantom slipped silently from the hidden hangar and accelerated toward the darkness of the Kuiper Belt for its trial run, Reynolds knew there was no turning back. Humanity had taken its first steps toward real independence among the stars. For better or worse, they had built a warship. The Phantom returned from its trial run in the Kuiper Belt, slipping quietly back into the hidden hangar on Triton. Reynolds watched through the observation window as the ship's engines powered down, a faint blue glow fading to darkness. The ship looked ordinary from the outside, just another human cargo vessel, with some minor modifications. No one would guess what it really was. How did she perform? Reynolds asked as Bell, their test pilot, entered the control room. Bell's face broke into a wide grin. Better than we hoped. Weapon systems at 94% efficiency. The old Krillian shield generators worked perfectly with Paddle's integration system. We hit all the asteroids in the test field, and the energy signature never spiked above civilian levels. Reynolds nodded, allowing himself a small smile. In the stealth systems, we passed within 500 km of a Council patrol. They hailed us as a routine cargo inspection. Thought we were hauling ice from the outer belt. Never suspected a thing. A round of quiet cheers went through the control room. Their gamble was paying off. The Council's own cast-off technology, combined with human ingenuity, had created something new, something dangerous. 2 days later, Reynolds called the core team together in what they now called the War Room, a converted mining office deep in the facility. Phantom's success proves the concept works, he said, looking around at the tired but determined faces. Now we scale up. I want 5 more ships built in the next 8 months. Patel frowned. 5. With our current resources and personnel, we might manage 2, maybe 3. We're getting more resources, Thompson said, sliding a data tablet across the table. 3 more engineers are joining us next week, and I've secured additional funding through some creative accounting at Earth Command. Foster leaned forward. I've been analyzing the tech Bell's been bringing in. The jury power converters they consider obsolete are 50 years ahead of our best. models if we install those instead of the human-built converters we planned. We can increase weapon output by 30%. Do it, Reynolds ordered. And Bell, I need you to find us more salvage as much as you can without raising suspicions. Bell nodded. I've got contacts on 6 trading stations. They can get us what we need. It won't be cheap, though. Money isn't the problem, Thompson said grimly. Time is. The Valdorians are getting bolder. Last week they hit a passenger transport. 23 civilians dead. A heavy silence fell over the room. They all knew what was at stake. Get it done, Reynolds said finally. Whatever it takes. The next 3 months passed in a blur of activity. The hidden shipyard on Triton hummed with round-the-clock work as the frames of 3 new vessels took shape. Each was designed to look like a different class of civilian ship. A mining vessel, a research ship, and a colony transport, but all contained the same hidden weapons and defense systems. Patel had become the heart of the operation, constantly improving their designs, finding new ways to hide military technology under civilian appearances. Her latest innovation was what she called adaptive shielding, a defensive system that could be completely hidden until activated. The genius is in the power distribution, she explained to Reynolds. One night, her eyes bright despite her obvious exhaustion, we route everything through secondary systems that look like standard equipment, environmental controls, navigation systems, even the artificial gravity generators. They all serve double duty. And if the Council scans them, they'll see exactly what they expect to see. Nothing more. 4 months into the expanded project, they faced their first major crisis. A supply ship carrying vital components from Earth failed to arrive on schedule. What happened? Reynolds demanded when he got the news. Thompson's face was grim on the video link. Council inspection team detained the ship at the Mars checkpoint. They're doing a full cargo scan. Reynolds felt his blood run cold. Components hidden as ordered, but a detailed scan might detect them. Who's the inspector? Drell, again. She seems to have developed a special interest in human shipping. Reynolds thought quickly. We need a distraction, something to pull her away from that ship. He turned to Bell. How fast can you get to Mars? Bell checked his watch. 8 hours if I push the engines. Do it. Take the Phantom. We're going to create a more interesting target for Inspector Drell. Bell's mission was simple but risky. He would pilot the Phantom near the Mars checkpoint, making sure its systems gave off just enough unusual readings to attract attention, then lead any pursuit on a chase through the asteroid belt before disappearing. Back to Triton. The plan worked mostly. Drell took the bait, ordering her inspection ship to pursue the Phantom when its scans showed inconsistencies. The supply ship was released and continued to Triton. But in the asteroid belt, Bell had to push the Phantom harder than expected to evade capture. We've got a problem, Bell reported. After returning safely, I had to use the enhanced thrusters to escape. Drell's sensors definitely picked that up. She knows something's not right with that ship. Did she identify you? Reynolds asked. No, I stayed out of visual range and masked our comm signals. But she'll be looking for that ship now. Reynolds made a difficult decision. We retire the Phantom, Dismantle it for parts. It's too risky to use it again. Patel looked pained. All that work. We'll go into the new ships, Reynolds assured her, nothing wasted. And we've learned valuable lessons about what Council sensors can detect. 6 months into the expanded project, they had 3 new ships nearing completion. The Harrier disguised as a mining vessel, the Osprey appearing to be a research ship, and the largest, the Peregrine, masquerading as a colony transport. Each incorporated improvements based on what they'd learned from the Phantom. Each was more deadly and more carefully disguised. But as the project grew, so did they. Risks of discovery, more personnel meant more chances for information leaks. Larger resource diversions meant more complex cover stories. Reynolds instituted strict security protocols. The facility was divided into sections, with only the core team having access to all areas. Most workers knew only their specific tasks, not the full scope of the project. Despite these precautions, Reynolds couldn't shake the feeling that they were living on borrowed time. His fears proved justified when 7 months into the project, an urgent message arrived from Earth. Council representatives are asking pointed questions about resource allocations. General Adams reported via secure channel. Someone in the budget office noticed the discrepancies. I've covered as best I can, but Drell is personally reviewing our shipbuilding records now. How long do we have? Reynolds asked. A week. Maybe less. She's requesting permission to inspect all human shipyards and facilities, including inactive ones. Reynolds looked at the ships under construction. The Harrier and Osprey were nearly ready, but the Peregrine needed at least 3 more weeks. Accelerate everything, he ordered. After briefing the core team, the Harrier and Osprey need to be operational in 5 days. Move all non-essential personnel to the Peregrine team. We'll finish what we can. The next 5 days were a frenzy of activity. Sleep was forgotten as the teams worked around the clock. Systems were installed before compartments were fully sealed. Tests were abbreviated or skipped entirely. On the 5th day, the Harrier and Osprey were moved to the launch bay. They weren't perfect, but they would fly and fight if needed. The Peregrine remained frustratingly incomplete, its weapon systems only partially installed. We're out of time, Thompson reported, looking at the latest message from Earth. Drell leaves for Triton tomorrow morning. Reynolds looked at their small fleet, 2 completed ships, 1 partial, and crews hastily trained on systems they barely understood. It wasn't what he planned. It might not be enough, but it was what they had. Launch the Harrier and Osprey, he ordered. Them in the Saturn rings until we call. Evacuate all non-essential personnel from the facility. The rest of us will stay to meet Inspector Drell as the ship silently departed, carrying the hopes of the project with them. Reynolds turned to Patel. Now we prepare our welcome for the inspector, he said grimly, and pray she doesn't look too closely at what we've left behind. Inspector Drell's ship arrived with the cold precision that marked all Council operations. It docked at the main airlock of the Triton facility without requesting permission. A clear message that this was not a courtesy visit. Reynolds stood waiting, his face carefully neutral as the airlock cycled, and Drell stepped through. Her insect-like features revealed nothing but the 6 armed guards accompanying Her spoke volumes, Commander Reynolds, she said, her translator giving her voice a metallic edge. I am surprised to find you personally overseeing an inactive mining facility. We value all our operations. Inspector, Reynolds replied smoothly. Even the temporarily dormant ones. Drell's compound eyes seemed to take in everything at once. Indeed, my scans show considerable power usage for a dormant facility and unusual communications traffic preparations. For reopening, Reynolds explained the lie practiced and ready, we're testing systems and training personnel, then you won't mind a full inspection. It wasn't a question, for next 6 hours Drell and her team moved methodically through the facility. Reynolds and Patel accompanied them, explaining away irregularities and directing attention from sensitive areas. A half-built peregrine remained hidden behind heavy doors marked as unsafe. Structural collapse risk, they almost succeeded. As the inspection neared its end, one of Drell's assistants approached her, speaking rapidly in their native language. Drell's posture changed immediately. Your power distribution network shows some interesting modifications. Commander, she said, turning to Reynolds, modifications that seem unnecessary for mining operations. Before Reynolds could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Emergency lights flashed red. Security breach at the colony on Proxima Centauri, called a voice over the intercom, all available personnel report to communications. Reynolds feigned surprise and concern. You'll have to excuse me, Inspector. This is an emergency. I will accompany you, Drell said firmly. In the communication center, the main screen showed chaos. The human colony on Proxima Centauri was under attack. Black ships, Valdorian raiders, swarmed around the settlement dome. But there were too many for a simple raid. This is an invasion, Thompson said, not having to fake his horror. They'd brought a full war fleet. Reynolds watched Drell's reaction. The inspector seemed genuinely shocked. The council must be notified immediately, she said. They will dispatch peacekeepers. Reynolds directed his next words to her. How long will that take, Inspector? Hours? Days? How many will die while the council deliberates? The protocols are clear. Member species may not engage in military action without council approval. Reynolds looked at the screen, watching as another building on a colony exploded under Valdorian fire. There are 10,000 people on that colony, he said quietly, including 3,000 children. For a moment, Drell's alien face showed something like uncertainty. Then it hardened again. I understand your concern, Commander. But the treaty is clear. Reynolds made his decision. General Adams, he said, opening a secure channel to Earth Command. The Valdorians are attacking Proxima Centauri in force. Request permission to deploy special assets. Adams appeared on screen, his face grim. He looked at Reynolds, then at Drell, understanding immediately what Reynolds was asking and what it would mean. Permission granted, Commander. Save our people. Drell stepped forward. You have no special assets to deploy, Commander. Unless, her compound eyes seemed to widen slightly as understanding dawned. You've built warships. Reynolds didn't deny it. Thompson, signal the Harrier and Osprey battle stations, set course for Proxima Centauri maximum speed. This is a direct violation of treaty, Drell said. Her voice cold. Earth will face serious consequences. There will be no Earth left to face consequences if we let our colonies fall one by one, Reynolds replied. You can arrest me if you want, Inspector, but those ships are going to Proxima. On board the Harrier, Admiral Kira Thompson took command of the small fleet. She had left the Triton facility just before Drell's arrival, knowing her place was on the bridge if things went wrong. Status report, she ordered as the ship accelerated away from its hiding place in Saturn's rings. All systems operational, reported her second in command, weapons charged and ready. Osprey is in formation awaiting orders. Set course for Proxima Centauri, push the engines to maximum. That will reveal our true capabilities, the officer warned. Thompson's face was set with determination. It doesn't matter now. We're past hiding. As the ships accelerated to speeds no human vessel was supposed to achieve, Thompson addressed the crews via shipwide communication. This is Admiral Thompson speaking. By now you all know we're heading into battle against the Valdorian forces attacking our colony at Proxima Centauri. What you may not know is that by doing so we are violating Council law. She paused, letting that sink in. These ships we've built together, in secret and against Council prohibition, are humanity's first true warships in the interstellar age. Today they will serve their purpose. Today we defend our own. A cheer went up from both ships. The crews had known the risks when they signed on. Now they would face the consequences together. Back on Earth, the news of the secret fleet and its mission spread quickly. Emergency sessions of government convened. Council representatives demanded explanations. Protests erupted, some against the treaty violation, but many more in support of defending the colony. In the presidential office, President Morgan faced the council's chief diplomat. Your people have committed a grave breach of trust, the diplomat said. The council demands you recall these illegal vessels immediately. Morgan stood firm. We requested council protection for our colonies multiple times over the past year. Each time we were told patrol schedules couldn't be adjusted or that the Valdorian raids were minor incidents, not worthy of major response. She pointed to the live feed showing the attack on Proxima Centauri. Does this look minor to you? They're slaughtering civilians while your council debates procedures. Nevertheless, building more ships. Pilots, what we built more than interrupted our ships capable of defending our people when no one else would. If that violates your treaty, then perhaps the treaty needs to change. In the darkness of space, the Harrier and Osprey pushed toward Proxima Centauri. The small bridge crew on the Harrier worked in focused silence, each aware of the historic nature of their mission. Admiral called the sensor officer. I'm detecting multiple ships ahead. Valdorian signatures, at least 20 vessels. Thompson studied the tactical display. The Valdorian fleet substantially outnumbered them, but numbers weren't everything. They don't know what we're capable of. She said, let's show them. As they approached the Proxima Centauri system, Thompson finalized her battle plan. The Harrier would engage the main Valdorian fleet, drawing their fire and attention. The Osprey would use its superior stealth capabilities to slip past the battle line and provide direct protection to the colony. We reach Attack range in 10 minutes, reported. Navigation. Valdorians have detected us but don't appear concerned. They've only redirected 2 ships to intercept. They think we're standard human vessels, Thompson said with a grim smile. Just what we wanted them to think. Until now. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. These next hours would determine not just the fate of the colony but possibly humanity's place in the galactic community. All hands to battle stations, she ordered. Activate all weapon systems. Divert power from disguise mechanisms to shields and weapons. Throughout both ships, hidden panels slid open, revealing weapon emplacements. Power surged through systems kept dormant. Until now. On their hulls the false markings of civilian vessels faded, replaced by the stark identification of Earth's first interstellar warships. Signal the Osprey, Thompson said as the first Valdorian ships came into weapons range. Operation Defiance is a go. The Valdorian fleet hung in space above Proxima Centauri, their black ships forming a deadly web around the human colony. Through the view screen of the Harrier, Admiral Thompson could see flashes of weapons fire as the ground defenses fought desperately against landing parties. They've spotted us, reported the tactical officer. 2 ships breaking formation to intercept. Thompson nodded. Just as expected. Status of weapons, all systems green. Targeting solutions ready. Hold fire until my command. Let them think we're standard human vessels right up until the last moment. The bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency as the distance closed. The 2 Valdorian interceptors approached confidently, no doubt, expecting easy targets. They're hailing us, communications reported. Put them through, Thompson ordered. A harsh reptilian face appeared on screen. The Valdorian captain bared his teeth. What might have been a smile. Human vessels, power down and prepare to be boarded. Your colony is now under Valdorian control. Thompson's face revealed nothing. We're unarmed transport ships responding to a distress call. Please allow us to evacuate civilians. The Valdorian laughed. There will be no evacuations. You will surrender your ships or be destroyed. I understand, Thompson said calmly. Then, after the communication ended, she turned to her crew. Battle stations, weapons hot, show them what we really are. As the Valdorian ships closed to firing range, the Harrier and Osprey suddenly transformed. Hidden weapon ports opened. Shield generators powered up to full capacity. Targeting systems locked on. They're scanning us, tactical reported. Reading confusion in their communications. Fire, Thompson ordered. The Harriers' main weapons, salvaged Krillian pulse cannons that no human ship should possess, fired in perfect synchronization. The first Valdorian ship's shields collapsed almost instantly. The second blast tore through its hull, leaving it drifting and powerless. The second interceptor tried to turn away, but the Osprey was already flanking it. A barrage of precisely targeted shots disabled its engines and weapon systems without destroying the vessel. First blood to us, Thompson said grimly. But they know we're here now. The real fight is about to begin. In the Valdorian command ship fleet, Commander Frax watched in disbelief as the sensor data showed the fate of his interceptors. Impossible, he snarled. Humans don't have ships with that firepower. His second-in-command studied the readings. These are not standard human vessels. Commander, the energy signatures suggest advanced weapon systems, possibly council level technology. Vrax's scales darken with rage. How did these primitives acquire such weapons? It doesn't matter. We still outnumber them 10-1. Redirect half the fleet to destroy those ships. Continue the ground assault with the rest aboard the Harrier. Thompson watched as 10 Valdorian warships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward them. They've taken the bait, she said with satisfaction. Execute Phase 2. The Harrier turned to face the oncoming Valdorian ships directly, while the Osprey powered down non-essential systems and slipped away using the stealth technology Patel had perfected to approach the colony undetected. We're outnumbered 5-1, Tactical reminded. Sir, then we better make every shot count. Thompson replied. Initiate attack pattern Delta. Target their lead ships first. The Harrier accelerated toward the Valdorian formation, its engines pushing to limits that would have been impossible with standard human technology. It fired a full spread of weapons as it closed distance, striking the lead Valdorian ship before it could fully raise shields. The Valdorians returned fire. Immediately, energy beams and projectiles streaking through space toward the human vessel. Evasive maneuvers. Thompson ordered. Activate adaptive shielding. Patel's greatest innovation sprang to life. Unlike standard shields that created a fixed energy barrier, the adaptive shields redirected power dynamically, strengthening defenses exactly where impacts were expected. Valdorian weapons struck but did far less damage than they should have. Shields holding at 82% reported. Engineering. They're surprised by our defenses. Keep moving, Thompson ordered. Don't give them a static target. The Harrier danced through space, firing with precision at the Valdorian ships while absorbing their return fire. The human ship was smaller and more agile, using its maneuverability to stay out of the crossfire of multiple opponents. One Valdorian ship exploded as a lucky shot found its power core. Another drifted, its weapons disabled, but the remaining 8 pressed their attack, surrounding the Harrier in a tightening circle. Shields down to 43%. Engineering called out, "We can't take much more of this." Thompson studied the tactical display. They were drawing more Valdorian ships away from the colony, which was the plan. But they wouldn't survive much longer against these odds. "Where's our miracle, Patel?" she muttered. Meanwhile, the Osprey had reached the colony undetected. Captain Lewis guided the ship into low orbit, positioning it between the settlement and the remaining Valdorian vessels. "Ground defenses are nearly overwhelmed," his tactical officer reported. "Valdorian troops have breached the outer ring of the colony." "Target the ground forces first," Lewis ordered. "Precision strikes only. There are civilians in those buildings." The Osprey revealed itself, weapons firing with surgical precision at Valdorian landing craft and ground positions. The sudden appearance of a human warship in their midst created chaos among the Valdorian forces. "Colony defense command is hailing us," communications reported. "Put them through." The face of Major Reed, the colony's defense commander, appeared on screen. His face was streaked with blood and smoke, but his eyes widened in shock when he saw the interior of a warship bridge. "What kind of ship is this?" he demanded, "the kind that's going to save your colony," Major Lewis replied. "We need to coordinate. Can your people designate targets for us?" Reed nodded quickly, understanding that questions could wait. Uploading target data now. We have civilians trapped in the western quadrant. If you can clear a path, we can evacuate them to the central bunkers. Consider it done. Back in the space battle, the Harrier was in trouble. 3 of the Valdorian ships had been disabled, but the remaining 5 had the human vessel surrounded. Shields were failing and hull breaches had been reported on 2 decks. Reroute all non-essential power to shields, Thompson ordered. Admiral called the communications officer, receiving a transmission from the Osprey. "They've reached the colony and engaged the ground forces," Thompson allowed herself a small smile. "Send our final telemetry to them. If we don't make it, they'll need our data on Valdorian shield frequencies." Just then the tactical display changed. 3 of the Valdorian ships attacking them suddenly broke off and headed back toward the colony. "They've detected the Osprey," Tactical reported. "That's our chance," Thompson said. "Focus all fire on the closest remaining ship. We need to break out of this trap." The Harrier's weapons concentrated on a single target, finally breaking through its shields and disabling its main systems. With a gap in the Valdorian formation, Thompson ordered maximum thrust. "Get us back to the colony," she commanded. "The Osprey will need our help against those reinforcements." As the Harrier limped away from the battle, damage control teams worked frantically to repair what they could. Thompson knew the ship was in bad shape, but they weren't beaten yet. "How long until we reach the colony?" she asked. 4 minutes at current speed, navigation replied. Thompson nodded. "All hands prepare for round 2. This fight isn't over." On the Valdorian command ship, Vrax watched in growing rage as his carefully planned assault fell into chaos. These human ships fought like nothing he had faced before. "Commander," his second reported hesitantly, "the colony's defenses are rallying with support from the human warship. Our ground forces are taking heavy losses." Vrax slammed a clawed hand on his command console. This was supposed to be an easy victory. How do these humans have this technology? A new alert sounded. "The damaged human ship is returning from the outer battle. It's on course to reinforce the colony." Vrax made his decision. "Prepare." Clear's throat. "My shuttle. I will lead the final assault personally and send a message to our allies in the Council. Tell them we need reinforcements immediately." As the Harrier approached the colony, Thompson could see the Osprey engaged with 3 Valdorian warships while simultaneously providing fire support to the ground forces. It was fighting brilliantly, but it was outnumbered. "Target the lead Valdorian ship," she ordered. "Let's even these odds." Harrier announced its arrival with a full weapons barrage that caught the Valdorians by surprise. One of their ships took heavy damage, its engines flaring and then dying as systems failed. "The Osprey is hailing us," communications reported. Captain Lewis appeared on screen, his bridge filled with smoke but his crew still at their stations. "Good timing, Admiral. We were starting to feel lonely down here." "Status report. We've pushed back the ground forces and the colonists are retreating to hardened shelters. But there's a new problem. Sensors show a Valdorian command shuttle heading for the main settlement dome, high value. Target possibly their commander. Thompson studied the tactical data. This could be our chance to end this if we capture their commander. A plan formed quickly in her mind, a risky plan, but they were long past playing it safe. Captain Bell, she called to the Harrier's pilot, set a course to intercept that shuttle. We're going to attempt to capture. Bell, who had proven himself time and again in training simulations, nodded confidently. Just get me close enough. Admiral, I'll do the rest. As the battle raged around the colony, the Harrier broke away to pursue a single shuttle, a small target that might change the course of the entire conflict. The Harrier chased the Valdorian command shuttle through the upper atmosphere of Proxima Centauri b. Admiral Thompson stood braced on the bridge as the ship shuddered around her. Hull temperature rising. Engineering reported, we're not designed for atmospheric operations. Just a little longer, Thompson urged. Bell closed the distance. The pilot's hands moved with practiced precision across the controls. Almost there, their shuttle is faster than expected on the tactical display. Thompson watched as the Valdorian shuttle dove toward the colony's main dome. If their commander reached Valdorian ground forces, they might still overrun the colony's defenses. Weapons range in 5 seconds. Tactical called out. Target their engines only. Thompson ordered. Minimum power. We want them grounded, not destroyed. The Harrier fired a precisely calibrated shot. The Valdorian shuttle lurched, smoke trailing from its port engine. It began a controlled but rapid descent toward the surface. They're going down near the western quadrant, Bell reported, away from their main forces. Perfect. Bring us down half a kilometer away. Alert the Osprey of our position and request ground support from the colony. As the Harrier descended, Thompson addressed the crew. I need 6 volunteers for a capture team. This mission is high risk, but if we can take their commander alive, we may end this battle without further bloodshed. Every hand on the bridge went up. Thompson nodded, unsurprised by their courage. Grant Lou Rodriguez Patel. Walker, you're with me. Suit up in the armory. The landing was rough but controlled. As soon as the Harrier touched down, the capture team disembarked wearing the lightweight combat armor that had been another of their secret projects. Valdorian shuttle is 400 m northwest. Lou reported, checking her scanner. They're still on board, probably. Assessing damage, Thompson led the team across the rocky terrain of Proxima. The red light of the star bathed everything in an eerie glow. In the distance, they could see the colony dome and flashes of weapons fire, where the main battle continued. Movement at the shuttle. Rodriguez warned, they're coming out. Thompson signaled the team to take cover behind a ridge of rocks. Through her visor, she watched as the shuttle's hatch opened and 3 Valdorians emerged. 2 were clearly guards, but the third, larger figure, wore the ornate armor of a fleet commander. That's our target, she whispered, stun. Weapons only. We need him alive. The team split into 3 pairs, moving to surround the Valdorians. The alien warriors were scanning the area, alert to danger, but clearly not expecting a ground assault from humans. Thompson gave the signal, 6 stun. Weapons fired simultaneously. The 2 guards dropped immediately. The commander staggered but remained Standing, his armor absorbing much of the energy, he drew his weapon, firing wildly as the humans converged on him. Walker took a hit to the shoulder, his armor smoking. Thompson and Patel flanked the Valdorian commander, firing again at close range. This time he collapsed. Secure him, Thompson ordered. Liu, treat Walker's wound. Rodriguez, signal the Harrier that we have the package. As they bound the unconscious Valdorian, Thompson's comm unit crackled. Admiral, this is the Osprey. The Valdorian fleet is in disarray. They've lost contact with their commander and 3 ships have already retreated from the system. Hold position and maintain pressure. Thompson replied, we're bringing back a guest who might convince the rest to leave. 20 minutes later, the Valdorian commander regained consciousness in the Harrier's secure holding cell. His name, they learned, was Vrax, supreme commander of the Valdorian expansion fleet. You are making a terrible mistake, he hissed as Thompson entered the cell. The Valdorian Empire does not negotiate with primitives. And yet here you are, Thompson replied, calmly, captured by those same primitives. She placed a data pad on the table between them. We've sent images of your capture to your fleet. They're standing down, waiting for instructions. You can end this now. Commander Vrax, order a full retreat. And no more of your people need to die today. Vrax's scales darkened with rage. You think this changes anything? The Council will never allow humans to possess warships. When they learn of this, your colony will still fall, just to a different enemy. Thompson leaned forward. Before you make more threats, you should see this. She activated the data pad. It showed intercepted communications between Vrax's ship and a Council vessel, communications that revealed the truth. The Valdorian pirates had been operating with the secret approval of certain Council members. The Direxians, Thompson said, they've been supporting your raids, supplying technology, ensuring Council patrols stayed away from human colonies. Vrax's eyes narrowed. Where did you get this? We may be primitives, but we're very good at signals intelligence. These transmissions will be very interesting to the full Council, especially the species you've been raiding with Direxian approval. For the first time, uncertainty showed in the Valdorian's posture. What do you want? Order your fleet to withdraw immediately. Then we're going to have long conversation about your arrangement with the Direxians. 1 week later, the Council Hall was packed. Representatives from every member species filled the chamber, drawn by rumors of explosive revelations. At the center of the hall stood a human delegation led by President Morgan and Commander Reynolds. Beside them, in restraint, stood Commander Vrax. High Counselor Vex called the session to order. This emergency meeting will address 2 grave matters: the human violation of treaty by building unauthorized warships and the alleged conspiracy between the Valdorians and certain Council members. The Direxian representative immediately protested. These are baseless accusations. The humans built illegal weapons and now seek to distract from their crime. Reynolds stepped forward. With respect, they are not baseless. He activated the central display showing the intercepted communications along with data from Vrax's captured ship. The evidence was damning. The Direxians had been using the Valdorians as proxies to weaken newer Council members keeping them dependent on Council protection that was strategically withheld. A murmur ran through the hall as the evidence mounted. Several species that had suffered similar raids began shouting accusations at the Dioxian delegation. President Morgan raised her hand for silence. We did build warships against Council regulation, we don't deny this. But we did so because the system meant to protect us was fundamentally broken. She gestured to the data still displayed. We were not the only victims. At least 7 species represented here today have suffered while the Council delayed action. The Valdorians were merely tools in a larger game. The chamber erupted in debate. Some species demanded the humans be punished for treaty violations. Others called for sanctions against the Dioxians. A few voiced support for human actions in defending their colony. After hours of heated discussion, a compromise emerged. Earth would not be expelled from the Council but would face restrictions on further military development. The Dioxians would be placed under special oversight. Their influence in Council affairs diminished. And most significantly, a new agreement would be created, the Independent Defense Initiative, allowing member species to maintain limited defensive capabilities proportional to their territory and population. 3 months later, Commander Reynolds stood on the observation deck of the completed Peregrine, now the flagship of Earth's newly legitimized defense fleet. Beside him stood Patel and Thompson, watching the ships from 5 other species arrive for joint training exercises. Not quite what we planned, Reynolds said, but better than we hoped. Thompson nodded. 6 ships have become a fleet of 20, with allies instead of enemies. Patel smiled as she watched a sleek vessel from the Tellurians, another species that had suffered under the old system, move into formation with human ships. The Council limited our weapon power and numbers, she said, but they approved all our shield technology, and our new friends are very interested in trading some of their advances for our adaptive shields. Reynolds turned as a junior officer approached Admiral Thompson. Commander Reynolds, the representatives from McClellan and jury delegations have arrived. They're requesting a tour of our engineering section. Former enemies, now eager to be friends. Thompson mused as they walked toward the meeting room. It seems building those warships was the right choice after all. It was always about more than just the ships, Reynolds replied. It was about standing up for ourselves, showing the galaxy that humans wouldn't remain helpless no matter what rules they tried to impose on us. As they entered the room where delegates from 6 species waited, Reynolds couldn't help but feel proud. Earth had broken the rules, faced the consequences, and emerged stronger for it. Humanity had proven itself not just to the Council but to the entire galaxy. They would never again be underestimated.